The two priciest housing markets in Canada became more expensive and competitive last month, and yet more buyers were willing to put down their money in Vancouver and Toronto. Sales rose again for a fourth month in a row since the market came back to life in February, but there are signs this enthusiasm may soon lose steam. Jeannie Lee is here with Friday's Outlook. It seems like we talk about this a lot. Let's talk about those fresh numbers, though.
And really, it's a continuation of the story that we've been telling since February, Hannah, when suddenly it looked like the lights just came on after about 9 months of a dark time in the housing market. And that was because those interest rate spikes were so sharp and so painful throughout all of last year. Now, have a look at what's happened since January, February, those darker times in the market. In Vancouver, the most recent month that we're talking about, which would be last month, the month of May, there were 3,400 sales roughly, and that has tripled since the month of January. The price index that board uses, about $1.2 million, which has risen by about $76,000 since January. Though we should say that the price index is still down quite a lot from the peak of March 2022, down about $172,000. So prices have come back basically 1/3 of the way. Now, then you had Toronto, which also reported, the regional board reporting 9,000 plus sales last month. This has tripled since January. So again, month after month, we've seen more and more sales. The average price now about $1.2 million. And again, that is up about $157,000 since January. Again, making up about 1/3 of where the prices were last year when they peaked and then fell. So recovering a little bit. And yesterday, same story from Calgary. In fact, Calgary reported, and we talked about this on the air, Hannah, how record price was achieved in Calgary. Meanwhile, there was a record number of sales in May, for any month of May. So, you know, strong picture still across the board for the 4th, 5th month in a row.
So why might this rush of buyers not last, though, Jeannie?
Well, a lot of it has to do with why they rushed back in the first place, and that was because the Bank of Canada said, okay, in January it said, that's it, we're pretty much done with interest rate hikes. We might still raise rates, but maybe not if things unfold as they should. But that was a signal for a lot of people to go back in. Now they had a certainty, but here are the forces that will now take hold. Could now take hold. We have more signs now pointing to the Bank of Canada having to go back on that message and having to raise rates later this year. Well, that tends to discourage more buying. The economy could still stumble into recession. Haven't seen much of that yet, but a lot of people are calling for that, and that, of course, would not be great for buyers. Meanwhile, buyers could turn cautious in this scenario, or they might rush their decision to beat the clock before all this bad stuff happens and lock in their rates now for certainty, etc. And owners might be tempted and say, you know, prices aren't going to get any better. They've already recovered by 1/3, as we've talked about. Now we will list, but then you have more supply coming onto the market as after a lot of buying has already happened, and so that might actually cool prices down, again changing the dynamics of this very dynamic market.
Jeannie, thank you so much.
Okay, take care.